Good afternoon. I'd like to thank the witnesses for being here today at today's hearing as we discuss the Air Force's fiscal year 2027 budget request. I look forward to hearing how this budget will get at the challenges of our increasingly complex security environment. I want to start by acknowledging the brave servicemen and women who are serving so honorably overseas to make the world a safer place for us all. I speak for everyone when I say that our thoughts and prayers are with them. One of my most important responsibilities as chairman of this subcommittee is ensuring that our airmen have the resources, training, and capabilities that maintain and grow our edge over our adversaries. Today's discussion of fleet modernization, strategic deterrence, and emerging technologies will inform our work towards that goal as we head into the heart of this year's NDAA cycle. I also want to thank President Trump for this year's historic budget request, which will not only get our servicemen and women the tools they need to succeed, but also boost the ongoing revitalization of our defense industrial base. I want to focus today's hearing on the role of the bomber and mobility platforms that help us overcome the tyranny of distance and project American power across the furthest reaches of the globe. Our bomber fleet is the cornerstone of our strategic deterrent, and our mobility platforms are the backbone of our operational effectiveness, allowing us to move personnel, equipment, and supplies around the world with unmatched efficiency. In today's constantly evolving threat environment, our adversaries are investing heavily in advanced capabilities as they try to close in on our lead. It is critical that we ensure that never happens. I look forward to hearing from our distinguished witnesses as we work to find solutions to ensure that our Air Force remains the best in the world. Now I'd like to turn it over to my good friend, Ranking Member Joe Courtney, for any opening remarks that he may have. Thank you, and Mr. Courtney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the witnesses for being here today. Again, I have written remarks. I'm going to just really summarize quick because I know we want to get into the testimony and questions. Sometimes people think that this subcommittee only does ships and things that float, and the fact is a big part of our portfolio is the airlift work that we're going to be discussing here today. And again, there's just so many critical platforms, many of which are starting to get a little long in the tooth that, I think is really requires our urgent attention, whether, again, it's, I think, the average age of the fleet is about 64 years in terms of the some of the tanker fleet that's out there right now, and B-52s. We've got obviously a B-21 program that's now going to be recapitalizing the bombers, which Trent mentioned, and so that's obviously again one of these programs that we have to just go bigger, faster, and make sure that we hit the requirements that are out there. I also want to talk about the ask some questions about the VC-25B program, which there is high public interest. And this has been an ongoing topic in this subcommittee, not just over the last 2 years, but frankly, going back to 2017. Again, really appreciate the professional witnesses that we have here today. As I said, I'll ask my written remarks be entered for the record and yield back.
Without objection. And Mr. Courtney, I think I got some things out of order. The subcommittee will now come to order. I ask unanimous consent that the chair be authorized to declare recess at any time. Without objection, so ordered. With us today, we have Mr. William Bailey, the Assistant Secretary of the Air Force for Acquisition, Technology, and Logistics, and Lieutenant General Dave Tabor, the Deputy Chief of Staff for Plans and Programs. Mr. Bailey, since this is your first time in front of this committee, welcome. General Tabor, you are a frequent visitor, so welcome back. I believe the witnesses have a joint statement prepared for us today, so you are recognized for 5 minutes for any opening remarks that you'd like to make.
Chairman Kelly, Ranking Member Courtney, and the distinguished members of the subcommittee. Thank you for having us here today to provide testimony on the Department of the Air Force's projection forces, aviation programs, and capabilities. The FY27 budget bolsters critical modernization efforts, such as the development of the future bomber fleet in the B-21, continuation of uninterrupted tanker recapitalization with the KC-46 program extension, and recapitalization of our strategic airlift capabilities through the Next Gen Airlift program. I want to highlight on the KC-46 program for the moment. From Operation Absolute Resolve to Operation Epic Fury, the KC-46 has been in the fight for over the last several months and has proven to be a critical enabler to the joint operations therein. Though it is performing admirably, the fleet still faces readiness challenges requiring daily heroics from the crews on the ground. To address those challenges, the Department of War and the Air Force have deliberately prioritized readiness initiatives within the FY27 President's budget. Those efforts initiate reliability improvements, additional sparing, and other supportability projects. In parallel, the Air Force and Boeing have embarked on a KC-46 Readiness Improvement Initiative, which repurposes 5 early build aircraft for near-term readiness improvements. It streamlines and accelerates retrofits for 2 of the remaining Cat 1 deficiencies and puts focused effort into the fleet's primary readiness detractors. The combination of these 2 initiatives is expected to provide a near-term availability boost of approximately 6% and provide a long-term aircraft availability increase of over 20% by 2030. The Air Force is moving rapidly to implement the Secretary of War's acquisition transformation imperatives. We appreciate the authorities provided by Congress and the FY26 NDAA and continued partnership as we work to transform acquisition into a true warfighting function. Our focus is on mission outcomes, with the guiding principle of ensuring every portfolio acquisition executive, or PAE, has the 3 things they need to succeed: the authority, the talent, and the resources. The Air Force is taking a phased approach on PAEs with the initial rollout of 5 portfolios that represent a cross-section of our most critical mission areas to pioneer and mature this new framework, and we're already seeing successes. We examined over 200 contracting authorities to identify areas for delegation. As a result, 85% of unrestricted contracting authorities have been delegated to the PAE level, and 100% of the business and contract clearance authority now sit with the PAE. Translating to real-world impacts, the PAE for propulsion is currently developing a $16 billion multiple award IDIQ contract that engages over 50 companies across the industrial base to rapidly solve operational and technological challenges. Because of that increased delegated authority, empowering the PAE to execute a contract ceiling that far exceeds historical thresholds, the team has already reduced the time required to compete and award the contract by 40%. Now more than ever, the acquisition enterprise requires a highly specialized and agile workforce. We're working to ensure PAEs have the workforce they need to translate significant budget investments into capabilities. Due to recent DOW policy changes on manpower and the use of hiring authorities, PAE Weapons was able to bypass traditional and protracted hiring constraints to successfully onboard 69 critical acquisition professionals just in the last month. Furthermore, these authorities have enabled our team to maintain a robust and agile talent pipeline. We are currently processing active personnel actions. We're executing rapid manpower realignments and utilizing targeted incentive packages at a speed not seen before. We are examining ways to empower PAEs with the ability to make active trade-offs between acquisition risk and operational risk. Reforms to the resourcing process include a realignment of and reduction in budget line items are critical to enable those trade-offs. We will continue to work with Congress to ensure resourcing flexibilities are aligned with the appropriate transparency and oversight. Thank you again for the opportunity to testify. We look forward to working with the Congress, industry, and the communities that support us to ensure we maintain the necessary military advantage to secure our vital national interests and to support our allies and partners. Thank you for your steadfast support and partnership as we deliver needed capabilities for the Air Force. Thank you.
I now recognize myself 5 minutes for questions. Mr. Bailey, I think your call sign is Elvis. So the first question is, do you know whose district Elvis was born in and what town?
I'd like to take that one for the records.
Well, I'll give you the answer. It's my district, and it's Tupelo, Mississippi. So thank you. Mr. Bailey, the fiscal year 27 budget requests money for an advanced tanker systems program building on the work of the next generation air refueling system. Can you explain the differences between these 2 programs?
Yes, sir. As we were looking at the work done in studying on that next generation of advanced systems, we did come to the conclusion that there is a greater need for us to take a look at what are those no-regret bets to place on aircraft survivability when it comes to large aircraft and large aircraft protection, because we will have tankers going forward, but we currently have hundreds of tankers. We have hundreds and hundreds of airlifters that also face those same style of threats. So what you're seeing in that ATS program is a aircraft agnostic approach to survivability. And as we take a look at what we're doing with the tanker fleet going forward, we didn't want to stop that work, and you'll see us continue again in that platform agnostic way, in ways that we find things that we can extend to C-17s and 135s, as well as what we do with tankers.
And General Tabor, the recent KC-135 crash is a stark reminder of the risk our airmen face daily. Could you please detail for us the current state of connectivity and situational awareness capabilities of the KC-135 fleet?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Kind of dovetailing on what Mr. Bailey talked about, I mean, the ATS, we really are focused on connectivity across our entire fleet. Right now, we have about $105 million programmed in 27, about $1.1 billion across the FIDA to field about 315 hybrid SATCOM terminals, and an additional 240 or so KU radar or KU array kits for the KC-135 fleet. There's also being similar capabilities being installed on the KC-46s. Specific to KC-135, we have a vast majority of those connected now with Link 16, as well as the tactical data relays through the Arctic program. We also have funding for Star Shield and Adams. It's an airlift tanker open mission system that will be added on here, was in the process of being added on to the KC-135 fleet to be complete over the course of the next about 4 years. And then the hybrid SATCOM will kind of lay in on top of that. So really over the course of about the next 6 years, you'll see the full fleet of KC-135s fully connected.
I thank you, and I now yield the balance of my time, and I recognize Mr. Courtney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Bailey, as I indicated, the Air Force One program is definitely, as I said, something that this subcommittee has been tracking and overseeing for a number of years. So a year ago, Darlene Costello, your predecessor, testified before committee and kind of walked us through the delivery time for the new 2 Air Force One cohort that, again, was purchased from Boeing back in, I believe it was 2017, or maybe 2018. Again, her testimony was that 2028 was sort of the new kind of target for delivery of those. And then obviously the new plane that was purchased from Qatar was another topic that we discussed. So the press reports are that the Qatar plane, which was just purchased about a year ago, is going to be delivered sometime in July of 2026. Is that true? How much did that work, or how much did the retrofit of that plane cost? And where are we with the real fleet that we started that journey, as I said, almost 10 years ago?
Yeah, sir. Thank you for the question. When it comes to the bridge aircraft, our current expectation is that the aircraft modification will be less than $400 million. When we talk about the VC-25B and the schedule there, right now the program is making good progress. We've had a chance to go through and work closely with the stakeholders as well as Boeing itself to get through some key aspects of the design. We were able to close out a lot of those design questions in October of last year. Just a couple of months ago, we were able to settle the questions on airworthiness certification, and now we're in the process of generating those airworthiness certification articles. So we do believe at that point we are still on track with the previous schedule in terms of having it ready in 2028.
Thank you. Again, it's still kind of Well, I guess the question is, if a plane that was purchased about a year ago was retrofit and is being delivered in 2026 for the President of the United States to fly in, and we're still waiting for the two other planes which have been going through extensive retrofit as well. What's the difference here? Why was one so much faster and cheaper? Is it not going to be really the same capability? Is that why it's a different production schedule? Again, as I said, we've been working on this for a long time, and something seems a little out of sync.
Yes, sir. It's difficult to get into the specifics on the requirements in this kind of forum. I do think as we look at this, and you'll hear it in many different areas too, where we spend a lot of time getting very focused in on the user and the requirements and what the opportunity is. We look at opportunities where you'd say, hey, if we take a look at a schedule, does the schedule actually benefit you? Will you be willing to make trades on minor requirements? Certainly not making trades on major requirements. And you're seeing the byproduct of a lot of that work, a lot of very focused work on what's the operational need. But again, we can come back to you and talk to you in more detail in a classified forum.
I mean, I think we deserve that, honestly, because just the disparity in terms of the costs and the disparity in terms of schedule kind of screams out for some answers in terms of just trying to make sure that the aircraft is going to be capable of doing what it's supposed to do. And again, just from a sort of intuitive standpoint, it just seems like something is different between these in this program that we really need to understand better, what that difference is. With the rest of my time, I just want to turn to General Tabor for a second to talk about the next generation airlift. I mean, the C-130s, 17s, and 5s fly approximately 800 to 900 mobility sorties a day, and it's getting old. Can you talk again about what the Air Force next generation airlift efforts to keep that capability functioning?
Yes, sir. This is highly important to us. I tell you right up front, the good news is that we don't have any immediate concerns about the viability of any of our airlift fleet. However, acknowledging that the C-17s and C-5s particularly continue to get older, we know that they will need to be recapitalized here sooner than later. So in the 27 budget, we have earmarked, actually pulled forward funding for an analysis of alternatives to kind of look at what the characteristics of a future airlift platform might be. So we think we're getting ahead of it. It's not something that we need to act on immediately, but we certainly need to be thinking about it so we can act on it before it becomes an emergency.
I'll let you use some of my time so your time didn't expire. I now recognize Dr. Desjardins.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank to our witnesses. And channeling my inner Joe Wilson, I'm going to say that my son Ryan just got certified on the C-130, so I'll pass along that to him. But he was Naval Academy, went through TBS, so he flies for the Marines. But anyway, that'll be good news that better equipment's coming his way. Mr. Bailey, I noticed that you spent some time at Arnold Air Force Base in my district, and I know you understand how important our RDT&E funding is to ensure we stay ahead of our adversaries. I'd like to take this opportunity to encourage the continued and increased investment in our test infrastructure and the amazing work that comes out of the Air Force test community and Arnold Air Force Base. So how can Congress and the Department continue to work together to increase the flexibility for construction, development, and acquisition within our test infrastructure?
Yeah, thank you, sir. And that was a special time. That is a pretty amazing base with a great mission. When I think about those style of challenges, Congress has supported additional flexibility on a lot of the construction activity, which I think has been put to good use. When I think more towards the future, it is probably in areas where we see limitations on our ability to test weapon systems that are now consuming larger ranges, greater pieces out of the electromagnetic spectrum. So if we could work together on issues like NEPA or even areas like spectrum access, even if it is to give us opportunities to assert some priority while we're doing critical testing, I think that'll be helpful to us.
Okay. Moving on to drones, they proven difficult to defeat despite costing a fraction of the interceptors that are required to stop them. Fixed ground radar cannot reliably detect persistent low-altitude Shahed drones. What is the department doing in FY27 request to prioritize counter-drone defense, including airborne early warning platforms and legacy close-in weapon systems that can address drone threats without consuming high-end interceptors needed for ballistic missile defense?
Yes, sir. We are working, the Air Force is working closely with the Joint Task Force 401 in their mission, counter-drone mission, as well as supporting the work being done as part of Golden Dome for some of those more advanced threats. I can tell you from working closely with that team, the Air Force's view has always been around the need to focus in on command and control, and very specifically open architectures inside that command and control. We will see, as you noted, the threat will pivot, and it'll pivot quickly. So your choice of sensors or sensing will need to keep pace with what that threat is doing. And then also you mentioned effectors. Shooting a $1 million weapon at a $4,000 drone does not make sense. So you'll need to be able to be agile there and keep pace with the threat. So again, sir, we work closely with that JIATA 401, and for our part, whether it's changes in the sensors or changes in the effectors, you're always going to want some stability in your command and control.
Yes, sir. And with all due respect to our chairman from Tupelo, Mississippi, who may not agree with the KC-46 tanker placement, we're proud of our Tennessee Air National Guard members who will be receiving the K-46 tanker at McGee Tyson Air National Guard Base in Knoxville, Tennessee. Are you expecting the cost and schedule delays to the KC-46 program to impact when units can expect a new platform to arrive? And either one's welcome to take that.
I'll take that. The short answer is no. We don't anticipate any kind of delays at this point. I think currently programmed for those aircraft to begin arriving in FY31. So barring anything happening between now and then, we should be on that path.
Okay. Did you have anything to add, Mr. Bailey?
No, General Tabor has that timeline down.
Okay. Well, the chairman has Elvis, and we have the KC-46, so we're all good. I yield back.
I'll just note that the refueling was created in Key Field by the Key brothers in Meridian, Mississippi, where those KC-46s should be. But that being said, I now recognize Mr. Norcross.
Is that above or below the Mason-Dixon line?
3.9 billion.
So, thank you for the witnesses here today. Just want to follow up on the CV-25 program. The original cost projections, not 10 years ago, is $3.5 billion. Mr. Bailey, do you have a figure on the current program?
No, I don't at the moment.
Well, it was reported back then, 3. So the point I'm making, each of the ones that are being retrofitted or new are about $1.5 billion plus, and we are years into it. So the idea from the one that was gifted to our country from Qatari of taking $400 million and trying to understand the difference between our existing fleet and the Qatari, there's a difference. Is that correct? Operationally?
Sir, I'd have to say, in terms of overall performance, it should be similar in performance.
Not performance, in its operations, its mission. Do they both, the Qatari and our existing two, have the same capabilities?
To my understanding, sir, well, actually, sir, we have a hard time having this conversation without...
Yeah, we're wiggling down the road. We're not going to cross that line.
I got it. I'd say, in terms of its ability to transport, it's the same airframe.
Well, that's pretty vague. So for what we're going to pay $1.5 billion each, we just got one given to us that costs us $400 million. You see, the math doesn't really add up, and we're not trying to put you in a position to say what it is, but they aren't the same capabilities to do what it has to do. Can the Qatar, what are you calling the Qatari plane? What are you calling that?
For it as a bridge aircraft, sir.
The bridge aircraft. Let's make sure I put that. Will that be part of the mission to fly outside the continental United States?
I'm not clear on that. I'm not clear on that, sir.
The new Qatari, the bridge, will that be cleared? Will the president be able to fly that outside of the borders of the continental United States?
I'll have to take that for record, sir.
All right. This is getting more difficult than I thought. Let's switch over to something a little bit more pleasant. The KC-46. We've gone through a long and difficult highway, but from what I'm hearing, we are on the right path. So, General, Midnight Hammer, some of the capabilities of the KC-46, were there any issues during Midnight Hammer or the present conflict that's going on with KC-46 and its ability to do its mission?
Not to my knowledge, Congressman.
Okay. And I assume that none of those have the new vision system. I should know this. The RVS 2.0. They do have them?
They do not have RVS 2.0.
Okay, so they're operating as they came out.
That's correct.
And we expect the first ones with the new system to be delivered when?
So RVS 2.0, the production cut-in will occur in the second quarter of FY28.
Okay.
And so that's for the production aircraft. There will be some retrofitting that begins prior to that.
So when do we expect the first, whether it's a retro or coming off the line, the new visual system to be operational in the first plane?
So on track to start delivering early summer of 27.
Great.
So about a year from now.
So I'll just wrap this up. Even though it had some very serious issues, we're seeing it operate in a way that has not been detrimental to our fleet or our flyers. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct.
Good. I think that's important to know, given where we came from. And with that, I'll yield back balance of my time.
Thank you, Mr. Norcross. I now recognize Dr. Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Tabor and General, for being here today. Appreciate your time. In our increasingly complex global environment, the Air Force remains the cornerstone of our ability to project power globally. As the proud representative for Texas' 13th Congressional District, home to the incredible airmen at Shepherd Air Force Base, I've seen firsthand the dedication and investment required to maintain that edge every single day. As we ask our fleet to fly longer and further than ever before, I look forward to hearing how the Air Force's 2027 budget request, which rightly seeks a 26% increase in funding, will provide the investment necessary to support readiness at all levels, from next-generation platforms and fleet modernization to training, maintenance, and sustainment. Shepherd Air Force Base in my district is home to the 82nd Training Wing, which is responsible for training the maintainers who keep our fleet in the air. As the Air Force undertakes a generational modernization of its bomber, mobility, and special mission aircraft fleets, our maintenance training must evolve as well. General and Mr. Bailey both, what steps are being taken to invest in the modernization of technical training? How are we ensuring that the training our maintainers receive today prepares them for the platforms and systems they will encounter on the flight line in the future?
Dr. Jackson, thank you for that question. So we're undertaking quite a number of things to the tune of about $60 million a year at Shepherd. That includes classroom modernization, which is IT infrastructure. It's digitizing the current courseware, augmented and virtual reality devices for students, connectivity throughout the dorms. So it's really kind of, I think, changed fundamentally from the way that we have done things in the past there.
Thank you. And, also I would say that we've had some conversations in the past and talking about the ability for places like Shepherd Air Force Base to acquire a little bit more for the students that they have as far as their funding, not getting full credit to maintain their facilities based on the number of bodies that they actually have on base on a day-to-day. So we're going to address that as well. Sir, anything to add?
No, sir. We've looked at other ways to modernize the materials that those trainers are using through commercial solution offerings. We expect to extend that to the maintenance community as well.
Thank you. I appreciate it. One more question. General, recently had a great visit down to Air Force Special Operations Command headquarters in Herbert Field, where I had the opportunity to see the Air Force Special Operations fleet and witness the evolving missions the command is undertaking. As the chairman of the Subcommittee on Intelligence and Special Operations, it's especially encouraging to have a leader with your background, having commanded at the squadron, group, and wing levels within the Air Force Special Operations Command, as well as most recently as the commander of Special Operations Command Europe. Given your experience in our Special Operations Forces fleet across a slate of critical soft commands, what's your assessment of the Air Force's sustainment of the Air Force Special Operations fleet? Are we providing enough support to keep these specialized platforms ready for the increased operational tempo that they face today and will face in the future?
Yes, sir, we certainly are. I pulled some of the numbers here just recently. MC-130 rates currently at about 80%. AC-130s just over 72%. That's about anywhere from 10 to 15% higher than the rest of the fleet. So AFSOC, they have the benefit of a little bit smaller fleet, and so I think they get a little bit more touch time perhaps than the rest of the Air Force fleet does. So they seem to be doing much better. That said, there are investments that we are currently making specifically in mission computers for the C-130 fleet, and that's Air Force wide, but the AFSOC aircraft are being prioritized for that. And then on the V-22s, which I know you're also very interested in, the Vector, the enhanced cockpit technology replacement, that's also something that we have funded here recently to the tune of about $200 million over the FYDP. So my assessment is that they're doing extraordinarily well in AFSOC right now.
Thank you. And, I've been working with the SOCOM community, with SOCOM Commander, and, pushing for the fact that I don't think that the SOCOM budget in general is where it's supposed to be. It should be much higher than it is right now. It's not really keeping up with inflation, even it's been flat for a long time. And that translates into the Air Force Special Operations community as well. So keep that in mind. I think we need to provide the Air Force Special Operations Command with a little bit more in the process so that we make sure that we're not basically taking away from those that literally are on the tip of the spear. Thank you. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Now recognize Mr. Vindman.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, gentlemen, for testifying today. So, Mr. Bailey, given the vulnerability of current tanker aircraft in contested airspace, what is the Air Force's timeline for fielding survivability and connectivity upgrades to the advanced tanker system, and are those funding levels sufficient?
Yes, sir. Thank you for the question. There are a couple of components that we consider in how do we improve the survivability. We talked a little bit earlier about how we're putting satellite communications and beyond line of sight communications into that fleet, the tanker fleet. It's going into 135s as well as KC-46s, as well as C-17s, as well as C-130s. That situational awareness has already yielded benefits in the 135 community, as they were able very recently to get situational awareness and turn around and abort out of a high threat area. So we've seen, and Air Mobility Command's been very clear with us on the real value of that situational awareness that the beyond line of sight comms can yield. What we're looking at now is now when we talk about the rest of what goes into survivability. And now we're talking about sensing, and we're talking about countermeasure development as well. We're shifting now from a lot of the surface-to-air kinds of concerns like we did with LAERCM program, and now looking at what happens at the waterline and above as we're looking at threats coming down below. So there is work that can be transitioning within the FYDP. We have investments that are in place both for the communications programs as well as that sensor and countermeasure activity.
Yeah, so just to dive a little deeper into that one, obviously we've seen for base defense issues, the challenges that unmanned systems create, and the spiderweb operation in Russia, Ukraine, but also in our current Middle East conflict. So this is part of that component, is that also like on the ground component, counter UAS? Are there investments in that?
Yes, sir. As we work with the JIATA 401 crowd, we look at ground-based sensing, active systems, passive systems there, and how do they network together based on a particular location. This is an area where geography matters, the base layout matters, and so what's our opportunity to tailor that base by base, combine that with command and control, as well as in the end effectors that will allow us to go and engage that range of threats.
General, anything to add on that one?
I would just add that this is a very busy space right now for all the reasons that you highlight, and we really are looking at it in kind of a layered perspective. Obviously, here in the continental United States, Golden Dome becomes a piece of that, not everything, but a piece of that. And then as you neck it down, I mean, we have the extant systems that we have, our counter small UAS detection system. And to Mr. Bailey's point, what we can do from an effector perspective in the CONUS is much different than what we can do overseas. And so we're trying to round that out. And that's where JIATA 401 and the work of the DOG comes in developing new capabilities, perhaps that we can use here in the United States. But again, reinforcing Mr. Bailey's point, we're really focused on how do we internalize this and make it something that is much more permanent, that we can continue to develop, because it's sorely needed.
So on the unmanned system side, and I've got about a minute left here, but can you talk about the investments that the Air Force is making in the unmanned systems? I mean, the other services are looking at the defensive component and offensive component. Can you talk about what investments the Air Force is making in offensive unmanned systems?
Yeah, well, so I'd be happy to give you the precise details on how much we have in the SUADs for the record. What I'll tell you is that with the stand-up of JIATA 401, a sizable chunk of that money from OSW went to that organization to do this development on behalf of the services, and then we'll reach in there to pull those things out. But I don't have the precise number for how much they had. I'm happy to provide that, though.
Thank you. I yield back.
Now recognize former chairman of this subcommittee, Mr. Whitman.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank our witnesses for joining us today. General Tabor, I want to start out with you, but I do want to reach back into some history. It's been about 10 years ago where Mr. Bailey and I, and at the time Colonel White, visited Palmdale to the Northrop Grumman facility there when the B-21 was in its infancy. And they were spinning up workforce, and we were talking about all the things that were going on as the Air Force, RCO, and Northrop Grumman were working hand in hand, shoulder in shoulder, and the initial elements of putting the aircraft manufacturing scheme together, also testing the aircraft, looking at the things that we would do. And the thing that I remember most vividly from that was the projection that we were going to go from a clean sheet paper design to a digital design. And call me skeptical. I thought, gosh, how are you going to do that? How are you going to get the workforce to do that? And I was 100% wrong. That was a great success story in how to execute one of the most complex aircraft ever manufactured in human history. And here we are today with that aircraft. But I also want to go back historically and talk about the assumptions that were made about that aircraft and what capability it would provide to the United States 10 years ago, and where we are today, and looking at what that aircraft can do in a highly contested environment where it's going to be key to have just that sort of capability, a capability that the Chinese do not have, a capability that we're going to need in instances where there is a large-scale threat to the United States. So my question is the analysis at the time was that we needed about 100 of those aircraft. I would ask you today, based on what you know and the threat scenario today and what that aircraft brings to the table as far as capability to be able to operate in a highly contested environment in ways that provide significant challenges for the Chinese to counter, is that 100 aircraft estimate that originated over 10 years ago. Is that assumption the same today Should we be satisfied with 100 aircraft? Should that number be different, higher, lower? Give us your assessment about where we are today versus where we were 10 years ago with the assumptions about how many aircraft we need.
So that's a great topic and one that's being hotly debated in a lot of different corners right now. I'll tell you that the Air Force position is that we need at least 100 B-21s, acknowledging that there are a lot of voices that would say that some say as many as 400, 300, 200. My sense is that we do need more than 100. What I can't tell you is the precise number that it needs to be. But for all the excellent reasons that you pointed out, I mean, 100 is the program of record that we stuck with. We're in the process of sharpening our pencils, really getting down to exactly what that is. And I think here in the next year, by the time we get to the 28 budget, we'll be able to give you a better answer, a much more precise answer, and show you our homework.
Yeah. Now, listen, I would encourage you, especially as the threat dynamic changes there, to give us a more up-to-date number, because I think the capability that aircraft provides is pretty amazing, and I think it dovetails exactly in as we see the threat and the things that we need to be able to perform in that environment. Mr. Bailey, good to see you. I know that through the years we've had a chance to cross paths multiple times. I appreciate all the great work that you've done for the Air Force through the years. I wanted to get your perspective on the KC-46 program. And obviously that's another key as we look at operations like Operation Midnight Hammer. We had an opportunity to talk to the pilots there and the missions that they flew and how they had to fly those missions and how refueling was a critical part of that, and how we have a fleet of aging aircraft. We saw, unfortunately, with the KC-135, a crash that occurred there. So the challenge is for us is how do we make sure that we have not just a fleet of newer aircraft for a whole variety of reasons, but then how do we make sure that we sustain that fleet? You know, the challenges with the old KC-135s is even with service life extensions and the things we have when you have an aircraft that is no longer going through a hot production line, sustainment becomes a challenge because you just don't have the spare parts, and then you're into one-off production, which is prohibitively expensive and also takes down your readiness for those aircraft. The numbers that are ready to fly takes that down to a low level. Give me your perspective on how we can best look at sustainment model, a different sustainment model for KC-46A.
Yeah, thank you, sir, and it's good to see you again.
Yeah, thank you.
The tanker capability and the tanker capacity is a vital aspect of what the Air Force brings to the joint fights, certainly. And you're absolutely right. As we take a look at the balance of the tanker fleet, we have to be in that recapitalization mode consistently now and moving into the future without a gap. And that's frankly what our plan includes. And so as we're taking a look at bringing KC-46 online, we've put a premium on positioning ourselves for sustainment, supporting aircraft availability in a very aggressive way. For that reason, if we're going to bring it online, and we're going to bring it online in numbers, we want to work with Boeing as well as the depot community to make sure we have the information we need in order to support it at a high rate. And looking at the KC-135, the numbers there are good. I think when we take a look at added capabilities, we had a chance to talk earlier about the addition of beyond line of sight communications to modernize the aircraft. Outside of that, we look at things like, hey, what are the next upcoming real painful DMS issues? You'll see us work on a new weather radar for the aircraft as being the next thing I think is going to start to be difficult to acquire in a timeline there. But we have investments.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My apologies, I yield back.
No, both the two chairmen used the addition of my time that I tried to yield back, but I'm okay with that. They're former chairmen. They get that prerogative. With that, I now recognize the gentleman from Louisiana, Mr. Higgins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Bailey, I'm going to ask you about the B-52 modernization effort and give us your assessment there. Do you have numbers in front of you, sir? I do. I'd like to see if yours match the number of aircraft that we're modernizing and what your cost per plane is projected to be and total cost of the modernization effort?
I can provide you program total cost. I don't have that in front of me right now, but what I can share with you for sure is when I got to this position last summer, I did look at the health and execution of those modernization programs. The B-52 is a significant capability. It represents half of our half of our bomber roadmap. Half of that roadmap. From there, I met both with the program office as well as Global Strike Command, and finally with the companies in industry to get to the bottom of what's been going on the program. I think you'll find that we have stabilized the cost and schedule.
You're satisfied with where you are right now?
Yes, I am, sir.
Okay, because that's my goal. You know, it's a crucial aircraft, and the modernization of it is, like, arguably the cornerstone of the entire deterrence effort here. So it's a lot of money. Some of us watch that money very carefully, but on the other hand, we recognize some programs have, in our minds, a higher priority. To me, there's none higher than the modernization of that aircraft. So we would rather see upfront request of money and an excellent plan on how to complete the work to allow that fleet to serve into the 2050s, which is the idea. We'd rather see the appropriate amount of monies authorized and appropriated than to see cost overruns. So that's a heavy lift that we're asking you to perform there. But I'm glad to hear that you have confidence in the steps that have been taken to stabilize that program. General, I'm gonna ask you about without going too deep into it in this setting, but the drone incursion in Barksdale. While we're talking about Barksdale, I'm quite certain that you've been highly briefed and reviewed what happened there and what didn't happen there. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
Okay. Are you satisfied with the response to the incursion, and do you believe that we know everything we should know?
So, not to be mealy-mouthed with you, I'm satisfied with the way they responded, given the resources that they have. I do not think that the resources that they have are sufficient for the future threats that we anticipate.
Okay, agreed. And I don't believe, General, I don't believe you've ever said anything mealy-mouthed probably in your life. So you certainly weren't going to start today. So here's the question that no one seems to be able to answer about that incursion. And we agree we have to do more to protect our airfields, especially incredibly important airfields. We don't really know. We're not certain. I can't get a straight answer on exactly what we need to invest in to protect the airs above our airfields. Can you speak to that at all?
Sir, what I'll tell you is that we're still in the process of developing that. We have our program of record, which I stated I don't think was sufficient, certainly not in the case that we saw at Barksdale. And we're trying to develop other capabilities through JIATA 401 that gives us a little bit more efficacy in a stateside scenario. It would be nice to be able to have a kinetic capability, but there are obvious policy problems. But we're kind of working through that and looking at other options that perhaps are less kinetic.
Okay, perhaps we could visit more about that when we have a little more time regarding protecting the skies above Barksdale. Mr. Chairman, I yield.
I thank the gentleman. General Tabor, I hate we couldn't have your special guests here today. I understand they have a track meet, and so we wish them the best. What events are they running?
Today, I think, is a throwing day. So it's a shot put and maybe the 100 meter sprint.
All right. Well, my kid was a cross country and 800 and 1600 and 3200 guy, but what a great sport. So we hate they can't be there. We give them a shout out and wish them their best today. All right. And Mr. Bailey, final answer now. This is Jeopardy. Okay. Whose district is Elvis from and what town is he from?
If I recall correctly, sir, that would be your district and it would be Tupelo.
Very good, Elvis. All right, with that, this hearing is adjourned.